My fiancée Brittany scoffed. Well, this is just terrible timing, Marcus. Cannot your dad have his heart attack some other weekend? When I got the call about my dad, so I smiled, told her to enjoy her celebration, and spent the next few weeks planning the most surgical takedown of her entitled life. What happened next destroyed her career, her social circle, and her entire carefully crafted Instagram persona. God, I am still shaking as I type this. I don't even know where to start. I guess I will start with Thursday night because that is when my world completely fell apart and then somehow got put back together in the most unexpected way. I am Marcus, 29 years old, and I work as a software engineer for a fintech startup in Austin. Been with my fiancée Brittany for 3 years, engaged for 8 months. She is 27 and used to work in marketing for a luxury skincare brand until recently. The kind of person who treats her Instagram like a full-time job and considers brunch a personality trait. Thursday around 8 in the evening, I was at this rooftop party Brittany had organized. One of those pretentious downtown bars where everything costs $20 and tastes like disappointment. She had invited about 20 people, mostly former colleagues and college friends, to celebrate what she called her big career transition. She had been hyping this celebration for weeks, talking about her exciting new opportunity. That is when my phone rang. Dad's contact photo lit up the screen, and immediately I felt that cold dread in my stomach. Dad never calls unless something's wrong. He is a 58-year-old construction foreman in San Antonio. Tough as nails, never complains about anything. Marcus, his voice was weak, scared. I had never heard him sound scared before. I am at the emergency room. I think I am having a heart attack. The world just stopped. The pretentious laughter around me faded to white noise. My dad, the man who taught me to change oil, to throw a football, to stand up for myself, was alone and scared in some hospital. Dad, which hospital? I am coming right now. Son, don't drive upset, but maybe you could come down tomorrow. I am scared, Marcus. The pain was so bad, I was already grabbing my jacket, already heading for the elevator. I am coming tonight. Right now. Which hospital? That is when Brittany appeared beside me. Champagne flute in hand, eyes sparkling with celebration high. She had been holding court all evening, soaking up congratulations about her new career move. Babe, where are you going? You are missing the best part. Sarah just said. She wants to connect me with her contact at a major beauty retailer. Brittany, that was my dad. He is having a heart attack. I have to drive to San Antonio right now. I watched her face go through this weird progression. Confusion. Then annoyance. Then something that looked almost like anger. Wait. What? Tonight? But Marcus. She glanced back at the party, at all her friends celebrating with her. Well, this is just terrible timing. Marcus, cannot your dad have his heart attack some other weekend? I have been planning this party for weeks. This is my moment. I literally couldn't process what I had just heard. Did you just ask if my dad could schedule his heart attack differently? Don't be dramatic. Look, heart attacks are scary, but most people survive them, right? And it is not like you being there will change anything medical. But this party, Marcus, this is my career launch. These connections matter. Cannot you just drive down tomorrow morning? The conversation was happening near the bar, and I could see some of her friends starting to notice. She kept glancing at them, worried about what they were thinking. Brittany, my dad could die tonight, but he probably will not, she said, and that is when I saw it. This cold calculation in her eyes. Look, I get that you are upset, but your dad is tough. He will be fine. And I need you here. I need my fiancé here for the photos, for the networking. People specifically want to meet you after I talked about your startup work. I just stared at her. 3 years together, 8 months engaged, and in this moment, when I needed her most, she was calculating whether my dad's life was worth missing a networking opportunity. You are right, I said quietly. You should stay. Enjoy your party. Relief flooded her face. Oh good, I knew you would understand. Your dad's going to be fine, babe. He is strong, and this connection could be huge for my career trajectory. I got in the elevator. As the doors closed, I could see her already turning back to the party, phone out, probably posting an Instagram story about her amazing night. The 2.5-hour drive to San Antonio was the longest of my life. I called Dad every 30 minutes. He was stable, awake, scared, but trying to sound tough for me. "Don't speed, son. I will be here when you get here." But that drive, that is when everything crystallized. That is when I realized the woman I was planning to marry had just shown me exactly who she was when the chips were down. When I got to the hospital around 11, Dad was in the cardiac unit, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. The doctors said he had had what they called a significant cardiac event, basically a heart attack that could have killed him if he hadn't called 911 when he did. I held his hand in that cold hospital room. And that is when I started planning. Because Brittany thought my dad's heart attack was bad timing for her career. I was about to show her what really bad timing looked like. She thought networking was more important than family. Perfect. I was about to put her networking skills to the ultimate test. She wanted this to be her moment. Well, it was about to become the most memorable moment of her life. Just not in the way she expected. I spent that first night in the hospital making notes on my phone. Strategic notes, because Brittany had just made the biggest miscalculation of her life. She thought she knew who she was dealing with. She was wrong. Dad's stable. I am staying with him. And Brittany has no idea what is coming. But what I discovered when I started digging into her so-called career transition is going to blow your minds. Turns out, there is a reason she was so desperate for this party to go perfectly. We'll update soon. Need to get some sleep in this hospital chair first. Update 1? Okay. I am back. First off, thank you for all the messages about Dad. He is doing much better. Doctors say he is going to make a full recovery, but it was closer than we initially thought. I have been staying at the hospital basically 24/7. But here is where this story gets absolutely insane. So after my last post, I couldn't sleep in that hospital chair. Around 3 in the morning, I was scrolling through Brittany's Instagram stories from her amazing night. You know, like you do when you are emotionally processing your fiancé being a sociopath. She had posted everything. The champagne toasts, the group photos, the candid shots of her laughing with her friends. One story was captioned "New chapter loading. Sometimes you have to bet on yourself. Boss moves only." That is when I noticed something weird in the background of one photo. She was posing with this guy I didn't recognize. Older, expensive suit, very touchy-feely for someone who was supposedly just a friend. His hand was on her waist, and her body language was familiar. Too familiar. I screenshot the image and zoomed in. I couldn't shake the feeling I had seen this guy before. Then it hit me. I had seen him before. About 6 months ago when I had surprised Brittany with lunch at a coffee shop near her old office. She had introduced him as Richard, a consultant she was working with, but she had been weirdly flustered about it. At 4 in the morning in a hospital room, I did what any suspicious software engineer would do. I reverse searched that photo and did some creative LinkedIn investigation. This is where everything exploded. The guy wasn't Richard the consultant. His name is actually David, and he is the CEO of a rival skincare brand. Not just any rival. The rival. Brittany's old company's biggest competitor. But wait, it gets worse. I went down a rabbit hole of referencing social media, business records, and some careful online detective work. You know what I found? Brittany's career transition wasn't a transition at all. She had been terminated from her marketing job 6 weeks ago for violation of company policy. Specifically, for attempting to access and download proprietary client information and product formulations in her final weeks there. The celebration party, it was her way of maintaining face while she figured out her next move. She had told everyone she was leaving for a better opportunity and convinced them to celebrate her fake success. But here is the truly insane part. She had been in contact with David for months, apparently negotiating some kind of consulting arrangement. The plan was to use insider information from her old job to help his company, and she was going to leverage her engagement to me as proof that she was stable and well-connected. She needed that party to go perfectly because David was there to finalize whatever deal they had been working on. She needed me there as her prop. her proof that she was part of a successful power couple worth investing in. My dad's heart attack threatened to expose that she had been living a complete lie for weeks. I sat in that hospital room at 5 in the morning, looking at my dad hooked up to monitors, processing the fact that my fiancée was not only heartless, but also potentially involved in corporate espionage, and had been using me as an unwitting accomplice in her schemes. That is when I called my buddy Jake, who works in cybersecurity. Jake, I need a favor, and it might require some creative research. What kind of creative are we talking about? The legal kind. I need help verifying some information about a potential corporate espionage situation. By Sunday morning, I had a complete picture of Brittany's real situation. The termination for policy violations. The lies. The fact that David was married with kids and this whole situation was way shadier than just a consulting arrangement. I also discovered that her parents had been supporting her financially for the past month, because she had been unemployed, money she had been using to maintain her lifestyle and keep up appearances. But the most interesting discovery, a bit of research revealed that David's company had been the subject of some industry whispers about aggressive competitive tactics. Nothing proven, but enough to suggest that whatever Brittany was involved in was potentially serious business. Remember how she thought my dad's heart attack was bad timing? I was about to show her what really bad timing looked like. Monday morning, I kissed my dad goodbye. He was being discharged that afternoon, and I drove back to Austin with a plan so carefully crafted that it would unfold over weeks, not days. See, Brittany thought she was playing chess. She thought she could manipulate situations, use people as props, and lie her way to success. She was about to learn that she had been playing checkers while I had been studying the entire game board, and the beautiful part. She was going to expose herself. I was just going to create the perfect conditions for her own choices to catch up with her. I am putting the plan into motion this week. Brittany still has no idea that I know anything. She thinks I am just the grieving son who chose family over her career moment. What she doesn't know is that I have been very busy during those hospital hours. And her carefully constructed house of lies is about to come tumbling down in the most public way possible. She wanted to play with people's lives and careers. Perfect. Let's see how she handles it when the spotlight is on her. Update 2. I cannot even believe I am typing this. But what happened over the past 2 weeks has been so much more insane than I could have ever planned. First, Dad update. He is home, doing great. And when I told him everything I had discovered, his exact words were, "Son, I raised you right. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and you have to believe them." Now, let me tell you how Brittany's house of cards collapsed. So I spent the week after Dad came home pretending to be the supportive fiancé who was just dealing with family medical stuff. Brittany was being extra sweet, probably feeling slightly guilty about the heart attack thing, but mostly just focused on whatever she had planned with David. She had been having regular coffee meetings with him, supposedly discussing her consulting work. I knew better now. These were planning sessions for whatever scheme they had been cooking up. The previous Wednesday, she came home glowing. "Babe, everything's falling into place perfectly. David says my insights are going to revolutionize their competitive strategy, and the consulting fee is going to be amazing." I just smiled and nodded. "That is great, honey. You deserve everything that is coming to you." She had no idea how literally I meant that. Here is where my plan got interesting. Instead of confronting her directly, I decided to let her actions speak for themselves. But I needed the right stage. Through my research, I had learned that David's company was already under scrutiny from industry competitors for their aggressive tactics. There had been some whispered complaints about them somehow getting access to confidential information from rivals. So I made some strategic phone calls. Not to the FBI or anything dramatic like that. I called the compliance department at Brittany's old company. I explained that I was concerned my fiancée might have taken proprietary information when she left, and I had noticed her meeting with competitors. I provided them with the photos from her Instagram, the timeline of her meetings with David, and suggested they might want to look into whether any confidential information had been compromised. The rest was beautiful corporate machinery in motion. Within days, Brittany's old company launched an internal investigation. They discovered that she had indeed accessed and downloaded client information in her final weeks. They also found evidence of her communications with David's company dating back months. But here is the thing that made it perfect. When they confronted David's company with evidence of this information sharing, his company immediately threw Brittany under the bus to protect themselves. They claimed they had no knowledge that the information she had been providing was confidential, and they terminated any relationship with her immediately. Friday morning, exactly 2 weeks after Dad's heart attack, Brittany got a call from a lawyer representing her old company. They were pursuing legal action against her for breach of confidentiality agreements and theft of proprietary information. The panic was immediate and spectacular. She called me, sobbing, "Marcus, something terrible is happening. My old company is claiming I stole information. They are saying I shared client lists with competitors. This is insane." I was sitting in a coffee shop, calmly working on my laptop. "That sounds serious, babe. Did you share any information?" "Of course not." "Well, I may have mentioned some general industry insights to David, but nothing confidential. This is all a misunderstanding." The beautiful thing was, she was telling me the truth as she saw it. She genuinely believed that what she had done wasn't that serious. That the information she had shared was just general industry knowledge. She had no idea that her casual sharing of client preferences, purchasing patterns, and product development timelines constituted serious intellectual property theft. Over the weekend, the story got even better. David's company, trying to distance themselves from the scandal, released a statement saying they had been approached by a former employee of a competitor who had misrepresented the nature of the information she was providing. Essentially, they publicly threw her under the bus and painted her as a rogue operator who had deceived them. Monday morning, the industry trade publications picked up the story. Not front-page news, but enough to make it clear that Brittany Chambers was persona non grata in the marketing world. Her LinkedIn was flooded with connection requests from people wanting to see the drama. Her Instagram comments became a mix of supportive friends who didn't understand what was happening and industry people making pointed remarks about professionalism and ethics. But the absolute perfect ending came Tuesday evening. I was having dinner with Dad at his favorite barbecue place, celebrating his clean bill of health from his follow-up appointment, when Brittany called me in complete hysterics. "Marcus, you have to help me. Everyone thinks I am some kind of corporate criminal. My parents are furious because they have been supporting me and now they think I have been lying to them about everything. David will not return my calls. My old friends from work will not talk to me. I don't know what to do." I listened to her cry for a few minutes. Then I said, very calmly, "Brittany, do you remember what you said when my dad was having a heart attack?" "What? What does that have to do with anything?" "You said it was terrible timing. You asked if he could have his heart attack some other weekend because it interfered with your party." "Marcus." I was stressed. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "You showed me exactly who you are in that moment. Someone who prioritizes networking over family emergencies. Someone who calculates the value of human relationships based on career benefit. This situation you are in now, it is not happening to you. It is happening because of the choices you made." I hung up the phone and looked at my dad, who had been listening to the whole conversation. He raised his beer and said, "To good judgment and better timing." We clinked glasses, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The next day, Brittany moved back in with her parents. Her consulting dreams were over. Her reputation in the industry was shot, and she was facing potential legal costs that could follow her for years. And me. I spent that weekend helping Dad organize his garage and talking about his plans to take up woodworking as a retirement hobby. She thought my dad's heart attack was terrible timing for her career ambitions. Turns out, her own choices were terrible timing for her entire life. Last I heard, she is working part-time at a local boutique while trying to figure out how to rebuild her career in a completely different field. Her parents are supporting her, but they are not happy about the financial and legal mess she has created. As for David, his company is dealing with their own reputation issues and increased scrutiny from competitors who are now watching for any signs of improper information gathering. The industry learned a valuable lesson about the importance of vetting information sources and the risks of competitive intelligence gathering. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping back and letting people face the natural consequences of their own actions. This is my final update on the Brittany situation, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better resolution. First, the most important news. Dad is doing fantastic. Complete recovery, back to his normal routine, and he has started that woodworking hobby he talked about. He made me a beautiful cutting board last week and told me it is the first of many projects he plans to work on in his retirement. Now, for the conclusion of this whole mess. The legal situation wrapped up about a month ago. Brittany's old company decided not to pursue criminal charges, but they did sue her for damages and got a judgment that requires her to pay back the economic value of the information she shared. It is not a huge amount, but it is enough to impact her finances for the next few years. David's company settled quickly and quietly with several competitors who had been affected by the information sharing. The whole situation essentially killed their aggressive expansion plans and forced them to restructure their competitive intelligence operations. But here is the part that really puts this story to bed. About 3 weeks ago, I was having lunch with Dad at our favorite spot in San Antonio when someone approached our table. It was Brittany's mother. I hadn't seen her since before everything happened, and I honestly wasn't sure what to expect. "Marcus," she said, "I hope you don't mind me interrupting, but I wanted to speak with you." Dad gestured for her to sit down, and she looked genuinely upset. "I owe you an apology," she continued. "When Brittany told us her version of events, we thought you had been cruel to abandon her during a difficult time. But when all the facts came out, when we learned about what she had actually been doing, and how she had spoken to you about your father's health emergency, I am ashamed of how we raised her to think that was acceptable." She paused, looking at my dad. "And sir, I am so sorry about what she said during your health crisis. There is no excuse for that level of selfishness." Dad, in his typical gracious way, thanked her and said that he hoped Brittany was learning from the experience. "She is," her mother said. "She is in therapy now, working at a small local business, and trying to understand how her priorities got so twisted. She is not the daughter we thought we raised, but maybe this experience will help her become the person she should be before she left." She handed me a card. It was from Brittany, but I didn't open it until I got home that evening. Inside was a handwritten note that said, "Marcus, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, and I am not asking for it. I just want you to know that I understand now how wrong I was. Not just about the work situation, but about what I said when your dad was in the hospital. There is no excuse for putting anything before family in a moment like that. I am glad he is okay, and I am glad you chose him over me. It was the right choice. I hope you find someone who deserves the loyalty you showed your father." I showed the note to Dad. He read it, nodded, and said, "That sounds like someone who is finally growing up. Good for her." I didn't respond to the note, not because I am holding a grudge, but because the healthiest thing for both of us is to let her rebuild her life without any connection to mine. And speaking of my life, I have some good news to share. I have been dating someone for the past few weeks. Her name is Elena. She is a pediatric nurse, and when I told her this whole story, her immediate response was to ask how my dad was doing and whether he needed any help with his recovery routine. Last Sunday, I brought her to meet Dad. She spent the afternoon asking him about his woodworking projects, helping him organize his tools, and sharing stories about her own father, who passed away a few years ago. Watching them connect, seeing how naturally she fit into our family dynamic, I realized what it looks like when someone actually cares about the people you love. That evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, Elena said something that stuck with me. "You can tell a lot about someone by how they treat people when nothing's in it for them. Your dad raised you, right? The night of Dad's heart attack, Brittany showed me exactly who she was when it mattered most. Everything that happened after was just the natural consequence of choices she had made long before that moment. She chose career ambitions over human decency. She chose personal advancement over ethical behavior. She chose manipulation over authenticity. And ultimately, those choices chose her life path for her. Dad is thriving. I am happier than I have been in years, and I am building something real with someone who understands what matters most." Brittany thought she could schedule compassion around her convenience. She thought family emergencies were negotiable based on career opportunities. In the end, the only thing that got scheduled out of existence was her place in my life. Sometimes, the best thing someone can do for you is show you who they really are early enough for you to make better choices.